So we have a heartbreaking and very ominous story to report to you guys today. The AP says, quote, an American and an Italian held hostage by al-Qaida, as well as 2 Americans working with the terror group, were inadvertently killed in U.S. counterterrorism operations earlier this year. They continue, the White House said that Warren Weinstein, an American held by al-Qaida since 2011, and Giovanni Loporto, an Italian held since 2012, were killed in a January operation in the border region of Afghanistan and Pakistan. The operation targeted an al-Qaeda-associated compound, and there was no reason to believe either hostage was present. They say, in addition, the U.S. believes that Ahmed Farouk, an American who the White House says was an al-Qaeda leader, was killed in the same U.S. Operation. U.S. officials have also concluded that Adam Godden, an American who had served as a spokesman for the terror network, was killed in a separate operation in January. The White House said Obama takes full responsibility for these operations and believes it is important to provide the American people with as much information as possible about our counterterrorism operations, particularly when they take the lives of fellow citizens. That line sent a chill up my spine. The White House said that while it believes it believes the operations were lawful. Anytime you have to say, we believe X, and it's coming from a government official, that's not very encouraging. We believe that the thing that we did, which was totally illegal and unconstitutional, is totally legal and constitutional. Really? Because if you did, I don't think you would have had to say it. I think it would have been assumed or presumed, like, oh, of course what they're talking about was legal. And I find it funny how they worded it in the article, man, how, oh, killed in the border region of Afghanistan and Pakistan. Oh, the border region? Really? You don't want to elaborate on that? You sure it wasn't actually in Pakistan? You can't say it's in Pakistan, can you? Why? Because if you say, okay, we killed him in Pakistan, what you're saying is we did something that's totally and utterly unconstitutional, and we killed American civilians, and look, you have to declare war before you can do something like that. I mean, I love how that's totally out the window now, right? The idea that, well, Congress has to approve a war, and then the executive branch can carry it out, or you could do whatever kind of military operations you want in a given country. We're so far past that in the post-9/11 world that, like, even the opposition party, the Republicans, were just like, I don't care. If you're killing people, if you're fighting, go ahead. Fight in whatever fucking country you want. You can go to Slovakia tomorrow. I don't give a shit. You're droning people? You're killing people? We're pro-killing. What part of that do you not understand? Go ahead. Kill wherever you want. Yeah, but in the enumerated powers in the Constitution, it's very clear you need Congress to declare war. You can't just take drones and fly them into Pakistan, a sovereign country, and start bombing people. Never mind civilians. Never mind our own civilians. I mean, this is a heartbreaking story. One of these guys, one of the American civilians, like a few years ago, had a video that he sent to Obama. Apparently, the al-Qaeda guys recorded it and sent it, and he was like, a message from a message to the American president, and he talks about how, please do your best to get me out of here. It's horrible. It's terrible. They pistol whip me. They do this. They do that. And not only did they not get him out, they killed him. So, what's the main takeaway from this, man? Look, it's not, they make it seem like, oh, what can we do? It was an accident. Well, the first thing you could do, like I just said, is not do illegal drone strikes. How about that? They make it seem like it couldn't have been avoided. Well, what are you going to do? We fucked up. It happens. No, when you're carrying out an illegal, unconstitutional war, essentially, drone war in Pakistan and Yemen and Somalia, shit like this is going to happen, but you don't have the legal authority to do it. If the Republicans were intelligent, they would come after you for this, and they would say, fuck it, we're going to try to impeach him or do whatever, because what you're doing here actually is unconstitutional. Everything else where they're like, Obamacare, unconstitutional, this and that, unconstitutional. Those things aren't unconstitutional, but this is unconstitutional. What are we, there's nothing we can do. Of course we're going to do it. But they even admit that the people they were going after, some of the people they were going after were American citizens who went to al-Qaeda and joined al-Qaeda. Now, I love how this is also one of those things that's become, like, not a debatable thing anymore. People are just like, well, he joined al-Qaeda. What do you expect? Of course you can kill them. Again, I don't know if you've read the Constitution. I don't know if you know how this country works, but you're not allowed to kill an American citizen without a trial. Whether they join al-Qaeda or ISIS or the KKK or any fucking group you want to think of. You are not allowed to do that. That's the whole purpose of having a system of governance and a system of law and having a constitution. The whole idea behind habeas corpus is you get a trial no matter what. You get a trial. You get your day in court, even if it's obvious that you're guilty. And that's all the reason more to have a trial. Because if you have a trial and you know the person's guilty, it'll be over 1, 2, 3, but they don't even bother doing that anymore. Because you know what it is? They got drunk on power with the Anwar al-Awlaki situation. Awlaki was an American citizen who became a jihadist, and they just said, fuck it, we're just going to go and kill him with a drone. And not only did they kill al-Awlaki in the process, which they're not allowed to do, according to the Constitution, they also killed, I think in a separate drone strike, his son, Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki, and also another person who was an American citizen, a young kid who was an American citizen in that strike too. And the whole time they're just like, of course we could do it. They joined al-Qaeda. But you still have to try them if they're American citizens. But in this case, they're admitting, yes, we went after people who joined al-Qaeda who were American citizens, no trial whatsoever, so a brazen violation of the Constitution in that regard. Then we killed people who we know 100% were innocent American civilians. Obviously, you can't do that either, but they say, oh, it was a mistake. And also, the entire drone war to begin with is unconstitutional because you're doing it in Pakistan when there hasn't been war declared against Pakistan. You have no authority to do these drone strikes in Pakistan. For fuck's sake, man. Look, we'd be having a different conversation altogether if you at least got the legal approval to begin with, or you at least tried all these Americans who joined al-Qaeda in absentia, and you found them guilty that way. You're allowed to do that, you could do that, but they don't even bother doing that anymore. So it would be a different conversation if you followed the law and the Constitution, and then you fucked up. But we're not even having that conversation because you didn't even do the basics. You didn't go through the proper process, which, you're a constitutional law professor, Obama. You of all people should do that. But you didn't even bother doing it. You're like, fuck the entire process. I'm just going to go George W. Bush style, neocon style, go buck wild with my drones, go in guns blazing and just start killing people. And this is the fucking result, man. And also, remember, in conclusion here, we wouldn't even be having this conversation if the people who were killed weren't American citizens. Now, my heart absolutely breaks because one of these guys was just a contractor helping poor people, and he was on his way back when it happened. He was just about to leave, but he was captured by al-Qaeda. Another one was the Italian citizen was a guy who dedicated his life to helping poor people and doing the right thing. So it is horrendous, and my heart breaks. But if this was, for example, a couple of Pakistani civilians, would this even make news in America? Not at all. It barely made news when our drones accidentally blew up a grandma picking vegetables. It was only on, like, The Guardian, and that's it. We covered it on this show. I think the Young Turks covered it, and that's it, man. When they blew up the wedding procession by accident because they thought it was the Taliban was all driving behind each other. It was a fucking wedding. That barely made news. So imagine if it was just a couple, 2 or 3 Pakistani civilians who died, along with maybe 1 or 2 al-Qaeda people. How would the headlines frame that? They would say, top al-Qaeda official taken out, and then buried in the article, maybe or maybe not. They might just leave it out. It would say, oh, and by the way, we maybe or maybe not killed people who were civilians. But oftentimes they flip the burden of proof. There was a great article about this a few years ago about how they just assume if you're a male, but within a reasonable age, like between 18 and like 55, they just go, well, by default, you are a terrorist. You're an insurgent unless you prove otherwise. So they flip the burden of proof. What? He's a man and he's got darker skin. He's fucking Middle Eastern. Obviously, he's a terrorist. Just assume he's a terrorist. And this is why we've gotten the reports that say, 95% of the drone strikes don't kill top al-Qaeda officials? So this story this is just scratching the surface, man. This breaks my heart, and this is something that's finally getting some coverage here in America. But the drone war is a grotesque, disgusting, massive fuck-up that's a neoconservative policy that's continued to be carried out by a so-called liberal Democrat. You have to stop this madness now. At the very least, you have to bring back the legal process and the layers of oversight to try to prevent stuff like this from happening again.